Pittsburgh Steelers fans, it is time once again for another edition of Tales from 2 a.m. My name is Bryan Anthony Davis from BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. It is so good to be with you once again, and this was an amazing weekend. If you're a football fan, if you're a Steeler fan, it was draft weekend. I call it Steelers Christmas or football Christmas, whatever you want to call it. It is a fantastic weekend. If you can tell by my voice, I had a lot of action this weekend when it comes to talking about the Steelers. I have completely lost my voice. No, I am not sick. I'm just struggling with the voice because of a few things. I was a little over exuberant with my reaction to the second round pick and some other picks too. And I did a lot of cheering, screaming, yelling, but just gotta wait till I gotta get some lemon juice and wait till this voice comes back. So I do appreciate you bearing with me with this voice. It keeps on getting worse, but once again, I am not sick. I've just talked a lot this weekend, not as much as one Dave Schofield from BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. I have to definitely thank him for, as the podcast producer, I needed somebody to go on and do all of the breaking news reports for every single draft pick. He was set to do 8, where they're talking. All of a sudden, we've got a 9th one. We've got another draft pick when the Steelers traded into the 5th round, into this draft again, to go ahead and pick up Isaiah Loudermilk. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And Dave went and said, got to go do that one. So he did all those breaking news reports and jumped in on most of the roundtable discussions. I've got to thank some other people too as well. I need to thank Jeff Hartman, as always. Great anchor coverage for all of our draft picks this year. He did a lot of in the first couple rounds. And then in the third day, we had Michael Beck anchoring along with Jeffrey Benedict, Matty Peverill. We also had Dave Schofield in on those shows. Great job from everybody on the BTSC staff, not just on the podcast side, but the editorial side as well. It was fantastic. We did give you great draft coverage. And Ryan O'Toole says, "Good morning, Bad. Great draft coverage. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that." We dreamed this up a long time ago. We ended up having, this will be our 20th draft podcast of draft weekend. So I'm really glad that we were able to have all that coverage. We always say it. Not just your one-stop shop, your non-stop shop. I have somebody here. I'm going to bring it up here. You're tripping, bro. Freiermuth is going to be a beast in his career at Penn State. He has never dropped a touchdown pass. Ebron will be a solid guy for us, but he has led our team, plus led the league in drop passes, something Freiermuth does not do. Hey, I have no problem with it. I'm on board with Pat Freiermuth. The other day, I wanted a center. This is what happens when you jump the gun, like I did. I'm going to tell you when I'm wrong. I had no problem with the pick, the player. I had a problem with the pick. And at the time, I wanted a center. I had my heart set on a guy. That's why the title of this show is called Why Do Fools Fall in Love? We fall in love with certain prospects, and we get set on these certain prospects. And if you know me, Kyle Rocky, you don't know me, because I am the one guy in all of Pittsburgh blogosphere media that will come out and say how wrong he was when he made the wrong statement. I'm going to tell you I'm wrong. I'm going to tell you that I'm wrong back in 2014 when I was not thrilled with the pick of Ryan Shazier. Boy, was I wrong right away. After I looked into this guy, I'm like, oh, well, maybe this is a pretty good pick. Then it was a good pick. So I loved it. But I had my heart set on a guy named Darqueze Dennard. Darqueze, he's that guy. I did not also. So that's the thing for the Steelers. I am going to be leading the way and cheering for this guy. I wanted the center. Little did I know that Kendrick Green, who is my new favorite Steeler, by the way, favorite Steeler, I love Kendrick Green. You know, my favorite, I said yesterday on the wrap-up show, still my favorite pick here is Najee Harris, because I really think it is. I think he's going to be dynamic. What you see, and we said this all along, and we try to say this, wait until the next few picks to judge this guy. You wanted an offensive lineman. You wanted a couple offensive linemen. You wanted a center. Well, you got him. You got him in the 3rd and 4th round. I don't know what you think of Dan Moore. Dan Moore, I think, is pretty solid. He doesn't give up a lot of sacks. Hardly gave up any sacks in his career. That's a guy that we just don't know about. Think about this. With all the prospects out there, we get to know maybe about 30, 40 names that we know real well. And that's what happens. Then these guys come out of Texas A&M. How many of us watched a lot of Texas A&M games? I didn't know about these guys. I mean, I saw their names. I didn't even know Buddy Johnson's name. I'm going to find out more about him. When asked who my least favorite pick of the whole thing is, I said Buddy Johnson yesterday. Doesn't mean that I don't like Buddy Johnson. Out of the 9 picks, that's the one that I'm like, is he a 4th round pick? Is he a 4B? He might very well be, because guess what? Jerry Olsowski knows better than BAD. Colbert, Tomlin, the Rooneys, they know better than me. They know better than everybody. So that's what we're going to find out here. I am in love with all 9 of these picks. And the reason I am, because I trust the process, and I know a lot of people don't want to hear trust the process. We can't grade this draft now. I remember back in 2013, got a guy named Vince Williams in the 6th round. Didn't know anything about him. Turned out to be a pretty solid Steeler for a long, long time, the heart of the defense in many a way. So that's kind of why we got to be careful of falling in love with some of these players. Also, the other thing is, when you fall in love with a player, Dave Schofield says this all the time. He says, I try not to fall in love with a player because I try to fall in love with a position. What happens is they end up wearing purple or orange. And that's, my gosh, my draft crush of the 2021 NFL draft is now wearing brown and orange. And I'm like, no, Anthony Schwartz, this guy is fast, 4.2 speed. I love this guy for 3 or 4 months. And now he's in Cleveland. Now he's in a mistake by the lake. I can't like him anymore. I can't. So this is a guy that is going to cause us headaches probably. A lot of guys I liked ended up with the Baltimore Ravens or the Cleveland Browns. There's a lot of guys that when they picked them up, I was like, yeah. But that's what happens. Those are 2 good drafting teams. Well, the Ravens are a better drafting team than the Browns. A lot of people are saying that the Browns won this draft. You know, time will tell, because you don't have to have big names to win a draft. And when you need to judge a draft is you draft it down the line. There's some guys that Sean Wade, Laser brings up Sean Wade. A lot of people were in love with Sean Wade and wanted him to come, and we passed on him, and he ends up with Baltimore. I'm kind of fine with not picking Sean Wade. Something interesting. I do this Know Your Enemy article, and I'm still working on it right now. Know Your New Enemy. And excuse me, I ended up looking for a picture of Sean Wade. I had to go through 5 screens before I found a picture of him not getting beat. It was interesting. I mean, yeah, Ryan O'Toole, I will drink some hot tea. I promise I'll do that. I need some lemon in there too. You're saying that he's a good Mike Hilton guy. I think the Steelers, I agree with you. He could be. But I think the Steelers got a good Mike Hilton guy with a guy we just didn't know. And that's Trey Norwood. Trey Norwood could be a good Mike Hilton type guy, a replacement. And that's kind of what they looked at. Probably one of my favorite players out of this draft, too. I know it's Jeff Hartman's. You gotta love the punter. A 263-pound punter. This guy's huge. Oh my gosh. And I keep on calling him Percy Harvin. Everybody's going to call this guy Percy Harvin. His name is Presley Harvin. So if he's named after Elvis, that's a good thing right there. And he weighs as much as Elvis. This guy's 263 pounds. He has a 48.0 average as far as net punting. The guy can kick it away. Jordan Berry might be going back to Australia McDonald's. I don't know. I am not a hater of Jordan Berry. I really like the guy. But when you're running a business, you need to bring somebody in, and they're bringing somebody in. And I think that this guy can make the team. He's going to be a favorite, this guy, Presley Harvin III. You throw in the third, that makes you even better. Presley Harvin III. I like that. Really, he needs to have a butler. You know what I mean? He needs to pull up in a limo with a scarf to games and so I'm Presley Harvin. I'm here to putt. I think that'd be great. Gosh, Laser's right. Barry is so inconsistent. Ryan O'Toole says Barry is the definition of average. And I have to say that. I have to say this. I'm not paying too much attention to the live chat. I'm trying to, but I do better when I have other people on because you know me, bad doesn't multitask well. My wife tells me that all the time. Not a good multitasker. So I thank you for all of the comments in there. If you do have a super chat, I will notice that because it comes up in color, and then I could go ahead and throw that to the front of the line here. So thanks for everybody for joining me. This is going to be an abbreviated show. We're probably only going to go about 40 minutes. And the reason being is I'm tired. I think we're all tired from watching draft picks. And it's great. I love the process. I love draft day. This is the most I've ever worked on draft day. And I tell you what, the work that everybody put in on the editorial side as well, I mentioned this earlier, is great. Some other guys I do want to mention, I didn't mention earlier. You've got Andrew W., you got SNW and Rylan B., who did all those scouting reports. I think they're absolutely fantastic. Shannon White's another guy. All the articles you got from Shannon White. KT Smith came on our show the other day. He's my partner for the pregame show when we're in season, and he did the pre-draft show with me. If you ever want to know anything, you've got a championship-winning high school coach here at BTSC, formerly known as Cliff Harris, is a punk. Man, he's great. And he has some great film room study. And he's the guy that when he says someone's really good, I kind of jump on board. And I love the fact that he loves the Kendrick Green pick now. 3rd round pick. That's the center that is going to make this draft so much better for Najee Harris. So that's a big deal. I also love the fact that this guy has personality. If you saw the picture that we put on yesterday that's been floating around, he's a 2 a.m. guy. He is the most 2 a.m. guy, I think, in the draft because there's a picture with him with 5 lovely ladies, and they're next to a car, and it's a calendar shot. And Laser says he's built and looks exactly like Pouncey. He could be Pouncey's brother just in the face alone. He kind of looks like a Pouncey. He wore number 53 at Illinois. Tell me that wasn't a mistake. He is a Pouncey. So I think you're going to love this guy. I'm loving the Kendrick Green pick. I hope he stays at center. So it's going to be great. Sean Manahan, $5. Thank you so much, buddy. Next, we'll hear of the Presley foot-long hot dog. Well, gosh, I tell you what. I mean, he's like, I like the foot long, but to me, he's like Angus beef. This guy's huge. Man, he's like a foot-long kielbasa. Maybe he's the kielbasa. Everybody likes kielbasi. Come on, we're Yinzers. Maybe that's his nickname. I tell you what, I had fun with this draft. I had a blast with it. What are your thoughts on the draft? throw them in, and I'll do my best to look at them here. But thank you so much for all the comments on the draft coverage. I appreciate it. I'll tell you this, Najee Harris, first-class player, first-class guy. He's even like the Home Depot, was it Lowe's or Home Depot that he's already shilling for with Drew Brees in those commercials? He's going to get a lot of endorsement. He seems to be a pretty good dude. When you talk about the stories of him driving 9 hours to be at a pro day that he was not even performing in, to be with his teammates, that's pretty cool to me. When you talk about the fact, excuse me, when you talk about the fact that he had a draft day party, not for all of his friends, but for his friends at a homeless shelter where he had to spend a couple of years getting help. He's given back to the community already. He's already looking at Pittsburgh food banks. This is a Walter Payton Man of the Year type guy too. So I'm going to love that. But somebody's going to come in the live chat and say, I don't care what he does outside. All I care about what he does on the field. And the guy's going to do it on the field. Let me ask you this. Do you feel the same if you were a naysayer on Najee Harris? And it's okay to be a naysayer. I was a naysayer. I'd be a hypocrite if I said it wasn't okay. Because we have knee-jerk reactions when a guy gets picked. We want sexy picks. That's it. We don't want no names. But guess what? We are not in the business to know 400 prospects. This isn't like NFL Network and Stump the Truck where they have 527, and that's the exact amount, 527 videos of different prospects. My brain can't handle it. I know that. So we know certain guys. So my question is, do you really think after they made the other picks, they took a lineman in the 4th round, they took the center in the 1st round, in the 3rd round in Kendrick Green, do you really think that this guy's going to be on an island by himself and no one's going to be blocking for him? Something else is going to happen too. There's the possibility, and I don't think it's a huge possibility, but you could see Alejandro Villanueva possibly coming back to this team. I doubt it. He might just be a Raven, but there's a possibility. There are a lot of free agents out there, not just at that position, but other places. So if you don't think that they got who you wanted them to get, maybe they bring in a guy like Casey Hayward as a defensive back who's out there. Maybe they find money for a guy like that. They still have some money that they could move around. And so there you go. I'm going to bring up Terry Bittinger just because I did not know he was from Cumberland, Maryland, which I'm not too far from there. And Cumberland, Maryland, when I first moved to Maryland, I was living in Frostburg. I've worked a lot in Cumberland too. So good morning. You really like the draft class. I think that's great. And here we go. Love it. Look, I know Big Al might not be coming back and he might be struggling. That's great. He didn't get the worst PFF grade last year. So I'm telling you what, you just don't say no to anything right now. This is not, if we've learned anything from football after 2020 and after COVID, this is not what we know. Things have changed. The draft has changed. Heck, players are you're going to see players wearing number 2. Position players wearing number 9 now. In fact, I'm wearing my number 9 today. We just did the draft. The only reason I'm wearing an SC jersey is because it's a Juju jersey. So only reason I'm doing that. Things are different. This is not your father's or your grandfather's NFL draft. This is not even your draft of 2 years ago. It has changed. So you always look at the draft, and when you don't see the guys that you've mocked to every single time, you get a little disappointed, and I understand that. But think about this. Something that I have been hanging on to is something that I learned at the beginning of the week when Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert said, we've got 24 guys. We live in a vacuum. We don't care what anybody is saying out there. All we care about is the guys that we've looked at, our security team, our doctors have looked at, our scouts have looked up. That's all we care about. So here's a question that we're going to talk about, and I'm going to bring them up. We moved up to get milked, didn't we? Head scratcher to me, but what do I know? I'm glad you said that. We're going to talk about the curious case of Isaiah Loudermilk and that drafting when we come back after this. So stick around. If you are on YouTube or Facebook, just be here, just stretch. Do what I do. Do a big yawn, stretch, and we'll be right back. If you are on any of our family of podcasts, we really appreciate that. Check us out wherever you download those podcasts. And remember, if you're here now watching live, download it anyways and listen to it later. You might find something cool that I said, or most likely something that I screwed up on, and be able to call me on it. I have no problem with that. I'm accountable. That's what it's not Anthony. It was originally Bryan Accountable Davis. All right. I'm getting tired. So let's take a break, download part 2, and we'll be back right after this. Pittsburgh Steelers fans, we are back to part 2 of Tales from 2 a.m. It was a long weekend, and I don't think I got to bed before 2 a.m. the entire draft, and I am definitely going to speak for my other BTSC podcast counterparts that we are all going to sleep well. I would say last night, maybe not even last night, because we still are writing stuff and still doing stuff for the draft, but starting tonight, maybe we'll start getting some sleep. That's great. So here we go. Everybody's going to have reactions to the draft, and I get it. The biggest reaction was Isaiah Loudermilk. Now, this is really funny. We had just wrapped up, and I'm thankful that we had just wrapped up a podcast. It was an hour-long podcast featuring the fourth round Texas A&M guys. And they just got off, and I jumped on to talk to them off mic to say, hey, good job. This is what we're looking at for round 6 and 7. Take a break. You have time to take a break now, because it's going to be a long time until the Steelers pick again. Next thing you know, Michael Beck starts yelling, oh my gosh, we just traded in the 5th round with Miami. We made a trade. We're like, whoa. So it's like, all right, let's get back to work. You guys need to go on. Dave's running. Dave's going to do his podcast for breaking news. So we had to find out who this guy was, and we couldn't find him on any scouting reports. I mentioned the 3 guys earlier that do the draft reports for us, the prospects. They do the big board. They have all these guys that they feature. We couldn't find them. Couldn't find Isaiah Loudermilk anywhere. Does that mean that Isaiah Loudermilk is a reach? We think it, because as Bobby Heenan would say, we're kind of humanoids. Man, this guy's huge. He's 6'7". They obviously liked something like that about this guy. They get paid to know all about the guys that we don't know who they are. They found a reason to trade up for him and trade into the draft, because they had the intel that he was not going to be there in the 6th round. So how can we say that he's a reach when we don't know and they have intel on this guy? That's the thing. He's huge. Do we have a crowded defensive line room? Yeah. Henry Mondeau might not have a job next year with the Steelers, or maybe an Isaiah Bucks. But Mike and Mary Hoggard says, could it be a future Too Tall Jones? Possibly. Or he could be another Daniel McCullers. All I know is I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Definitely. Because I'm going to, Jeff Hartman says this, and he said this on Najee Harris. He even said this on Pat Fryermuth. Don't hate the player. You don't have to like the pick, but the player didn't make the pick. The player is here because he was picked. So hate the pick, not the player. But I have a feeling you're going to like those two guys I just mentioned. We might love Milk. Got Milk? There's new BTSC t-shirt. I'm putting the R register. Oh, that doesn't look like an R, but I'm putting the registered trademark. Got Milk? There you go. New t-shirt. Just like that. How about it? I really think that, like I said, I know they know what they're doing. Somebody said here, McEldew says, Milk, love the nasty players. Time to hit someone. They did get nasty in this draft. A lot of these guys that they picked have mean streaks and will hit you on the football field. And that's what I love about this draft. So think about that. Let's figure out what he does. Let's not even judge him after year number 1. Let's see what he does in camp. Then after around year number 2, let's start judging that draft pick, because they know something about him. He comes from Wisconsin. I believe he has the knock on him is he doesn't get to the quarterback a lot, but he makes plays. He makes tackles. So I can't wait to see the Milkman. Snowman gives me $5 to get some green tea to help with my throat. Thank you, and the BT appreciate that. And thank you, Snowman, one of the best contributors to the show. I will get some green tea. And here's the thing. It's sore. It's just during the draft. I'm a fan. Now, people were judging this draft. Brand names aren't big names with the 2 4th-round picks and the 5th-round pick. Then you get to the 6th-round pick. Roche. He played at Temple. Ends up sacks, I believe, last year. Program. He knows how to get to the quarterback. He was also on full examiner named Quincy. But I'm delirious now after all the. Even though you didn't see me on all, we're gonna go ahead and get ready to. That's no problem with that. So looks like we are having some trouble, and I'm not sure why that is with the internet. So I tell you what we're gonna do. What we're going to do is we're going to wrap up this draft real quick, and we'll see what's happening with the network. So there are some buffering. So 1 to 9, I'm not ready to grade this draft. All I know is you're going to see these guys pouring their heart into black and gold uniforms as Men of Steel, and that's going to be pretty exciting. So thanks for everybody who hung out with us for all of the BTSC podcast this weekend. Be sure you check out all of the scouting reports, everything you want to see, reaction to the picks on BTSC BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Remember, we're just not a podcast platform. We actually were born from the editorial side. So check all of that out. But for all of you that came in and spent some time with me this morning, thank you so much. For the entire BTSC family of podcasters, my name is Bryan Anthony Davis. I ask you to do 3 things, and it's simple. It's this: be safe, be true to yourself, and always be behind the steel curtain. We'll see you.